welcome back to another episode of Quick Strikes. My name is Michael Wax, as always, with my co-host Jake Ricker. Jake, that was insane. How are you doing?
Oh my goodness, Michael. I thought that game was going into overtime for sure, and then we'll get to the goal. But wow, I am so excited that we come out of this game up 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals. It feels great right now. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean, it feels really, really good. That it wasn't even the best buzzer beater in history, but the elation coming from the team really made it feel like it was. But let's get into this, starting with the fact that yes, this is Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals, Lightning versus Islanders. Game 1 was a dominating performance by the Lightning, winning 8-2. And as our favorite network, NBC, said, they're going to come out flying. They're going to come out flying. They're going to come out flying. Not talking about the Lightning at all, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And they did come out flying. And Matt Martin capitalized really early on a terrible defensive performance on one particular shift by the Sorelli Killorn Johnson line. Excuse me. Martin sneaks in behind Johnson, gets his fifth of the playoffs. Nick Leddy with the only assist.
Yeah, listen, we knew the Islanders were going to come out and play much better than they did in Game 1, and they did that today. For this majority of this game, the Islanders play the way they probably wanted Game 1 to go. So credit to them. They did play really well in the beginning of that first period, and they capitalized on their chances, and they went up early, 1-0.
Yeah, they were fantastic, as they should have been, and we probably would have seen that regardless of what game it was, after what an annihilation the previous game was. So, the Lightning did not have the greatest of periods, but they found a way to tie the game late in the period. We mentioned Matt Martin scoring with about a minute and 30 seconds into the game. With about a minute and 30 seconds left in the period, Victor Hedman, off of a face-off win from Barclay Goodrow, gets his seventh of the playoffs, bar and in. A beautiful shot. And as I mentioned in a couple other videos, a face-off win leads to a goal.
This is I believe, 93 mile per hour shot by Victor Hedman. He did this again. Another great blast from him in the point. And listen, you're going to have bad periods, you're going to have bad games, but you've got to find ways to get that puck in the back of the net, and that's what the Lightning did here. They were down and out for a majority of this period, but right at the end they come back. They don't give up. They don't give in, and they continue to play hard, and they got rewarded for it. But you mentioned the faceoffs. Faceoffs were huge for the Lightning, and I really hope we get to see Stevens soon, because the faceoffs have shown that they're so important in this series, and just in hockey in general. So they did a great job there at keeping it up and not giving up towards the end of the period there, and they come out of this period tied 1-1. By the way, that's a huge win for the Bolts. With the way that period went and the struggles, it was a big win for them.
A big win indeed. We did mention, or not mention, a couple of things. Excuse me. We'll get to them in a bit. But to end the period, the shots were 13-4 in favor of the Islanders. The Islanders heavily outclassed the Lightning. Very surprised it was 1-1 at that point. And we need to talk about Alex Killorn again. And I was really hoping that we didn't, because he decided to lay a hit that was questionable at best against Brock Nelson. And it did not look good. Nelson looked extremely banged up during that game. I've mentioned on the Bay Bolts account running the game, he probably shouldn't have been in the game. He just looked so disoriented that this hit by Killorn didn't help. We're done with Killorn taking bad penalties. I think it's time to sit him. I know that's going to be unpopular, but man, this is really bad.
Yeah, listen, there's no excuse for this. That's the bottom line. Killorn is now up to 17 penalty minutes in these playoffs. And, you can sit here and say, well, it was shoulder-to-shoulder contact. But, this hit is late. It's unnecessary. It's a bad hit. There's no way around this. And, listen, I know people have been talking about, well, Killorn's had such an amazing regular season. He's a really good player. But he had a great regular season. You're right, and I'm not trying to discount that. But at the end of the day, when a guy has a great season like that, you expect him to then elevate his play in the playoffs as well, and he hasn't done that. He had a couple of good games with Boston, but to be constantly taking these bad penalties, especially this one, which is a dangerous hit, he might get suspended. I don't know. The NHL player safety, you mentioned this, Michael, on Twitter. It's a coin flip with them, but it's unnecessary hit. You put your team on a 5-minute penalty kill, which is not going to help you. You cannot be doing this. It's a bad hit. And I really hope that he ended up getting ejected from this game. I hope that serves as the quote unquote bench where he obviously didn't get to play in this game. And I hope that sends a message to him, be like, you have got to be better, because he played so good in the regular season. I want that regular season Killorn back. I know he can be better than that, which is why I think it's so frustrating for us.
It was really frustrating, and because we lost Killorn, Lightning, who went into the game 11-7, 11 forward, 7 defense, ended up losing out on Killorn, which was now 10 forwards, and Braden Point got hurt in the first period because once it rained, it pours. So Killorn out and Point out. Point tried to come back in the second, but he ended up going to the locker room and not returning. I don't know what the penalty, or I don't know what the injury was. It wasn't necessarily specified. He wasn't favoring anything. I really don't know, and I don't want to see what it is, for lack of a better word. I don't want to see like, hey, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. I don't want to speculate, but Braden Point is the driving force of this team. We're in trouble if he's out long term.
Yeah, this was frustrating to see him go down. He's one of the best players, in the league. He's one of the best players on this team. He's played so well, and that was tough. We're already down Killorn too, so to then have Point go out, that doesn't help whatsoever. But he did come back in the game, and then he played, I think, 2 shifts, then left again, and then I heard a couple people saying he might have come back again. So I don't know what the deal with is. I know he didn't end up playing more shifts after these couple of shifts in the second period. So I'm hoping it was a precautionary measure, and he realized it's just going to hurt himself more if he continues to play. So hopefully this is a Kucherov situation where he got high sticked at the end of that Boston game and was ended up being okay, and was ready to go for the next series. Now he had a couple more days rest there, but hopefully that's the case with Braden Point. Him being out for a couple of games would be a huge loss.
It would be a tremendous loss, but going into the second period with only 9 forwards, which NBC kept on mentioning over and over again. I'm sorry, I'm done with them. The Lightning played okay. They didn't play necessarily that well, but they limited the Islanders' opportunities, which I think was key for them. They played a good defensive game, which is something that the Lightning were thinking that the Islanders would do. And the Islanders, to their credit, shut down the Lightning at the offensive end whenever they did get opportunities. But there was no score, and there weren't even that many good opportunities, to be honest.
No, yeah, this was a very defensive game, as you mentioned. It was the Islanders were playing the game they wanted. I think this period ends like you said, 1-1 with no score. I think it was almost the best case scenario for the Bolts, because they had been struggling here, and they took a couple of bad penalties again. There was a lot of missed calls, by the way. The refs, I think the officiating struggled tonight, but the Islanders were having their way. They were playing a much better game than the Lightning, and you're looking at this at the end of the second here, thinking, man, they have got to turn some things around here, because they're just, I don't know what it was, if mentally they just weren't there, or if the Islanders were just playing as the better team here, but things were not going well, and I think the Lightning were lucky to come out of this 1-1 here, and it was a good sign for them. These are the type of games that you have to find ways to steal.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time in the regular season. You need to find an extra gear, especially when things aren't going your way. And in these playoffs, time and time again, we're figuring out that that is something that is extraordinarily true. Especially when, again, I hate to say this over and over again after hearing it over and over again, the Lightning were shorthanded for the entire game, or for the majority of the game. So, as you mentioned, no score in that second period. We go into the second mission with a 7-6 shot advantage for the Islanders in that period. They're leading the Lightning 20-10 in terms of shots. So, not a great look in terms of shots on goal for the Lightning in the first two periods. But when you're missing two forwards, it's a little bit harder to generate shots on net. I thought the defense did a spectacular job before we get into the third. I thought that, excuse me, for the most part, Hedman played well. He had a couple of gaps, but he played well. McDonough was exceptional tonight. Sergachev was very good. Chernak was unbelievable in the penalty kill. After I've ragged on him so many times on the penalty kill, there were pairs that didn't work at times, like Sergachev and Cernak. But overall, I thought the defense was spectacular.
The defense was very good, and they needed to be in this game with the offense struggling so much and so many forwards out. That's what you have to have, and they did. They played really well. Hedman's always great. McDonough was huge, and they played very well. Also, Vasi too, who was a part of the defense, was stellar. I want to get to him more in a minute later once we get to the end of the game. But Vasi, great as always.
I mean, I didn't want to bring it up now, but yeah, Vasi was the rock of the team. He was spectacular tonight. There's really no other words to really describe how good he was tonight. Even though he didn't face a high quantity in terms of shots, but a lot of the opportunities against him were quality opportunities. He only faced 28 shots, but I would say more than half of them were really good scoring chances that he shut down, and he had a couple of brilliant saves. But as we go into the third, as you mentioned before the show started, in the first 10 minutes, the Islanders were still playing their game. They were limiting the Lightning in terms of shots. They were trying to get, that one big chance on net so they could lock the rest of the game down. And then halfway through the game, the Lightning started to pick it up. They started to play their game, which was nice to see, considering, again, they were shorthanded.
Yeah, exactly. And I tweeted this out, at that about 10-minute mark, 7-minute mark. The momentum started to pick up in this game, and I believe it was after the 5-on-3 penalty kill that happened, if I'm not mistaken, too. So they got some momentum from that. They started playing faster, which is the type of game the Lightning like to play. Remember, we talked about in our series preview, the Islanders like to play that defensive game. So you saw these guys start to play faster, and we started to get more chances. Things looked a lot better. This was the team that I wanted to see. So, and I know we could sit here and talk about how the Lightning really struggled in this game for the most part, but again, as I mentioned a little bit before, you've got to find ways to come through in these games. And the Lightning have done such a good job all season at not giving up. They're always fighting for it, even when they're down. They weren't even down in this situation, but a great job by them to, when they did find that momentum, they ran with it.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job, especially considering the fact that their power play wasn't clicking, but their penalty kill was exceptional, as we mentioned earlier. They had a couple of shorthanded opportunities, even, but they never gave the Islanders that spark, and they, to their credit, needed that spark in order to win the game. And I want to bring up a quote that I heard before the third period started, and it just shows the ignorance of these broadcasts. The NBC panel, I do not remember who said it, said that if Braden Point was out, Matthew Barzal was the best player on the ice. That's not what I would say, and I think that Nikita Kucherov might have heard that. Because the Lightning had that final push in the final minute. Coleman had an opportunity. Gord had an opportunity. Ryan McDonough finds Nikita Kucherov in the slot, and he buries it, his sixth of the playoffs, with 9 seconds remaining to give the Lightning the permanent lead.
Oh my goodness. I was so happy when this puck went in the back of the net. I saw the Lightning pushing at the end. I'm like, they're playing really well. They look good right now. I really thought this game was going into overtime, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. But wow, what a great job by them to play until the horn. Kucherov got open on that right side, and what a blast. Awesome, awesome play by the Lightning. They did such a good job really pushing at the end there. That was a huge goal. And to steal this game was big for the Lightning.
I do want to make one correction, and I do apologize. He wasn't at the slot area. He was at the right circle, and he let that shot go. The most amount of emotion I have ever seen from Kucherov, and rightfully so. I was telling Jake before we had started shooting. I actually went to the buzzer beater game against Montreal a couple of years ago in that famous triplets run where Tyler Johnson scored with literally less than a second left. That is the only moment in my life where I've felt more joy, mostly because I was experiencing it in person. But you saw how much the spirits got lifted by the team. Kucherov, Palat, John Cooper's reaction. If you haven't seen it, please go to Twitter and go to the Tampa Bay Lightning's Twitter account. It's the first or second video on there. He looks like every win a man who has his job saved, frankly, but I didn't want to go with that route. But, he looks like a man who is riding or dying with this team.
And you nailed it right on the hand, right at the end there. That's what I love about this. Cooper is excited. It was an amazing reaction. I'm definitely going to need to find a way to use that in some way or form with graphics or something in the future because that was great. But when you see a coach have that much excitement and that much passion behind his team, you know that the players are able to get behind that too. And it's a huge momentum boost. Again, we've talked about this all the time: momentum, 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 and how important it is in the playoffs when you don't have that to build off the fans. Basically, if you think about it, the coaches behind the bench are kind of like the fans in that arena a little bit. I know that's a little bit of a weird analogy, but if those guys are excited too, these players are going to be excited too. And the Lightning can really easily take that momentum too. The Lightning posted a little, or it was the NHL actually that posted a quick pregame speech from John Cooper, and the guys got excited when they headed out there. That was in game one, by the way, but great to see Cooper so excited about that goal. I love it.
I was told that he showed no emotion. Um, I guess we could put that narrative to bed now.
Absolutely.
But a great ending to a honestly pretty mediocre game. I think we could say that much, and I think we could say the Islanders dominated the majority of that game. The Islanders were the better team, but sometimes you have those games. Now, the Lightning were the far better team in game one, and the Lightning were definitely not the better team here in game two. So, you're going to have those kinds of swings. The Lightning now have a 2-0 series lead, which is always good to see. Jake, well, let's go to our recurring segments of positives and negatives. Go with both of your positive and negative.
Well, a lot of more negatives to pick from than last time, that's for sure. But I'll start off with my positive, and my positive has got to be Nikita Kucherov. And the reason for that is because, with so many forwards going out in this one and people needed to step up here, Kucherov stepped up. He played really well towards the end of that game, even though he didn't have a goal or an assist at that point. He was making plays. You could tell. Even the NBC broadcast mentioned this. He was playing really good. And at the end of the game, he finds a way, finds a spot to put that puck in the back of the net and get the game-winning goal. Huge for the Bolts. Kucherov really stepped up in these players' absences with the injuries that they dealt with in the ejection for Killorn. My negative is got to be the Braden Point injury. This is something that I'm a little worried about. I really hope it's nothing serious, but the Lightning cannot afford to keep losing these forwards. It's going to hurt them in the long run. So I hope Point is okay, especially because of how good of a player he is. We saw how much of an impact Stamkos' absence makes on the power play, for example. But hopefully Point's okay and is good to go for game three.
Man, you stole my positive, but I got another one. It's okay. I'm gonna go with Under Vasilevsky. Always a rock in that. 27 saves on 28 shots, many of them high danger opportunities from the Islanders, who really changed their style of play in terms of uh, generating weird, rebound type or like big play goals. They really went for the juggler on this one. They really tried to hammer it home after the 1-0 lead. The Lightning responded, and I think the response mostly came on the back of Vasilevsky. He was unbelievable in that, has been for this entire series. If I had to give a Conn Smythe trophy out right now, and it's not Braden Point, it is Andre Vasilevsky.
Absolutely.
Uh, my negative is Alex Killorn, and I hate to beat on this drum again, but this is insane. I want him and the team to do well. If he's not playing, he's putting the team in a detriment. They are not going to do well. So I really hope that either he understood his lesson or Cooper makes him understand that lesson. And I guess we're not going to end on positives and negatives because I do want to ask you, Jake, if Point is out long term, by long term, I just mean next game,
Right.
and Killorn is benched by Cooper, excuse me. I mean, Kucherov is on the mind, of course, uh, but Killorn is benched by Cooper. Who draws into the lineup?
Um, I think there's two guys you can look at for that situation, and I think it's either Stevens or Volkov. I think Stevens would be a huge benefit to the Lightning with his face-off ability. We've talked. I'm not sure what the face-off percentage was for this game. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but
It was 44% for the Lightning.
okay, so much better than normal, so that's good. But Stevens would be a huge help, I think, for the faceoff circle because we've mentioned how good he is and how important that is. I think Volkov's a good option too because he's another very talented forward. He's played a little bit recently, so those are the two guys I look at to potentially jump in this lineup. Now, I will say this: I don't think we're going to see Killorn get benched. It's unlikely. However, though, if Point is also out, that one of those guys have to step up anyway. So I definitely could see Volkov or Stevens being the ones that come in. Stevens for his faceoff percentage, and Volkov just for his offensive ability and needing those legs basically to pick up. And Volkov is kind of a similar player to Point sometimes in regards to speed and offensive ability. So that could work well for the Lightning.
Yeah, and you're exactly right on those two players. They are really, really exceptional in terms of some of the skills that they have. I'm gonna defer a little bit. I still do think they're gonna roll 11-7, even if one or both are out, because the seven defensemen have played very well. Why would you take any of them out? Stevens would be my first choice. Again, I'm like the conductor of the Mitchell Stevens hype train. I think he's exceptional, specifically in the faceoff dot and generating chances in front of the net, which we don't see from any Lightning players except for Yanni Gord and occasionally Anthony Cirelli. My second player would actually be Matthew Joseph. We saw him taking warmups for the second time in these playoffs today, and Joey had a bit of a rough regular season. I think we can admit that. But Joey is fast. Joey is rested. Against this Islander team, you are going to need fast and rested players because they will shut you down. And if you can beat their defenders, you will generate scoring chances. Now, I know that he has the Eric Condra JT Brown syndrome of missing the net by about 1,000 feet whenever he gets a golden opportunity. But if you can generate those types of chances and then you get a trailer like a Gord or a Goudreau or a Paquette, easy. That's an easy scoring chance. So my two players would be Stevens and Joseph, I should say. I could see any four or any two of the four of Volkov, Stevens, Verhage, and Joseph getting in though. They've all taken warm ups or played.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely all those guys can make an impact and a positive impact for the Bolts because we have such a good depth. But only time will tell. Hopefully, ideally Braden Point is okay and we don't have to worry about that too much. But we'll have to wait and see. They've been also very quiet about this, as we know, with Steven Stamkos and all these guys that have been hurt. So we'll have to wait and see what Cooper says and what they do. And you're right, though. 11-7 is what they've been going with. And Cooper mentioned one of his interviews that it's been working. So there's really no reason for them to try and shy away from that. So they probably do go 11-7 for the next couple of games until they're forced not to.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, the defenders have been doing well. They've been doing all of this without Jan Ruda, who I really, really liked in the regular season. I think a lot of people liked him. He's only played in one of these playoff/round robin games. So, once Ruda comes back, you're going to have a tough decision on who to sit. But for right now, it's not so tough. You keep all seven of them in. But is that all, Jake?
I think so. Hey, man, I'm just super excited. The Bolts found a way to steal this game. This is huge, up 2-0. A lot of the pressure has been taken off them. As people were talking about on Twitter, and I mentioned here earlier in this show, championship teams find ways to win games like these. This was not the Bolts' best game by far, but they found a way to win this game right at the end. This was a huge win. The Lightning, but I don't want to jinx anything, but good start to this Eastern Conference Finals. But they've got to keep it up. That's the big thing too. They've got to keep it up. They cannot take their foot off the gas whatsoever.
Jinxes aren't real, everybody. I think Jake will be okay.
Knock on.
Exactly, knock on wood. But if that's it, I just want to remind everybody that Game 3 is on Friday, September the 11th at 8 p.m. on our favorite network, NBC. They did a terrible job today. I think that's where I'm going to leave that. But as always, my name is Michael Wax, here with Jake Ricker. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, be sure to look at our Twitter page for news, notes, and game recaps every single game, whether it's myself, Jake, or Phil at Baybolt's Captain on the call. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you Friday after the game, hopefully up 3-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Take care, guys.
Well,